The most important relationship you'll ever have in your life is the one you have with yourself. But most of us don't live that way. Most of us spend our lives chasing love from other people, trying to get someone to see our worth, hoping that if we show enough, give enough, care enough, someone will finally love us the way we deserve. And that's the lie we've been fed, that love is something out there, something we must earn, someone we must find, and if we don't have it, we're failing. But here's the truth: real love doesn't find you when you're lost in someone else. Real love finds you when you've found yourself. The moment you stop trying to be enough for someone else and start being everything for yourself, something magical happens. You stop chasing, you stop doubting, you stop begging for attention, affection, or commitment. Why? Because you've become your own source of love, and that, ironically, is what makes you most magnetic. That's when love finds you, not the needy kind, not the temporary rush, but the kind of love that stays, that chooses you, that grows with you, because now you're finally showing up as someone who knows who they are. Someone who's not waiting to be chosen, but already chose themselves. So, let's talk about what it actually takes to find yourself, and in doing so, become the kind of person love is drawn to. There's a story that many of us unconsciously leave by. A story we absorbed from childhood movies, pop culture, fairy tales, and even the relationships we observed growing up. It goes like this: we are broken, incomplete, flawed, and one day someone magical will walk into our lives, see our mess, and love us so fully that all our pieces finally fit. That sounds romantic, but it's a myth, a dangerously disempowering one, and it's the reason so many people feel perpetually lost, disappointed, and heartbroken in love. Because when you buy into that story that someone else is the key to your wholeness, you give them power over your identity. You unknowingly hand over the steering wheel of your life and hope they'll drive you to peace, fulfillment, happiness, security. But no one can do that. No one should do that. And the more you expect someone else to complete you, the more disappointed you'll be when they can't, or worse, when they leave. Let me be very clear: you are not incomplete. You never were. You are not a half waiting for a whole. You are not a question waiting for someone else to be the answer. You are not unfinished, and your life doesn't begin when someone falls in love with you. It begins when you fall in love with yourself. But it's hard to believe that when we've been conditioned to think the opposite. From the time we're young, we're bombarded with ideas that make us feel not enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, not successful enough, and so we internalize this belief that someone else's love will prove we are. And that's where the cycle begins. You meet someone, you fall for them quickly, you start attaching your identity to their attention. When they text, you feel seen. When they compliment you, you feel beautiful. When they validate you, you feel worthy. But when they pull away, you crumble, because they didn't just leave you. They took with them your sense of value, confidence, and emotional safety. And that is the danger of relying on someone to complete you. The moment they become the source of your happiness, you stop being in control of your own life. You start compromising your needs to keep them. You say yes when you mean no. You overlook red flags. You silence your voice. You shrink yourself, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear that without them, you'll go back to feeling like you're nothing. But here's the truth that can set you free. You were already everything you needed. Love should never be a rescue mission. You are not broken, and you do not need fixing. You are not an empty vessel waiting to be filled by someone else's presence. You are a complete, complex, evolving human being who deserves love, not because someone else says so, but because it's your birthright. So if love hasn't found you yet, that's not a sign that you're lacking. It's not an indication that you're behind or unlovable. It's an invitation to turn inward, to stop searching for the one, and start becoming the one for yourself. Because something incredible happens when you stop outsourcing your sense of self-worth. You begin to reclaim your power. You begin to show up differently. You begin to move through the world with a kind of quiet confidence that doesn't beg for attention, but naturally commands respect. You don't chase anymore. You attract, you don't cling to someone out of fear they'll leave. You love them freely knowing that even if they go, you'll still be whole. You stop tolerating crumbs from people who only want you when it's convenient. Because now you know what a full meal looks like, and more importantly, you know you're worthy of it. And here's the paradox of it all. The moment you stop trying to be chosen by someone else, you become incredibly magnetic. Why? Because wholeness is attractive, because authenticity is irresistible, because someone who knows who they are and doesn't need a relationship to define them is powerful. They don't settle, they don't shrink, they don't chase, they don't trade their soul for temporary affection. They walk in their truth and love meets them there. Let me ask you something deeply honest. Have you ever stayed in a relationship just because it made you feel less alone? Have you ever compromised your values, beliefs, or standards just to be liked or accepted? Have you ever changed parts of yourself to fit into someone else's mold, hoping they'd stay longer if you became what they wanted? If yes, you're not alone. We've all been there. But those aren't signs of love. Those are signs of disconnection, not from others, but from yourself. Because when you're connected to yourself, when you've done the work to truly know who you are, you stop looking for someone to complete you. You start choosing people who complement you, and there's a massive difference. Someone who completes you is someone you feel you need in order to feel whole. You depend on their love to validate you. You feel anxious without their approval. You're afraid of being alone because you don't trust your ability to thrive on your own. But someone who complements you, that's a person who adds richness to your already full life. You're not with them because you need to be. You're with them because you choose to be. You're not afraid of losing them because you know your world doesn't collapse if they walk away. Your peace, your purpose, yourself, love, those things aren't tied to them. They're anchored in you. That is freedom, and that is where real, healthy love begins. Love built not on dependency, but on interdependence. Love that allows two whole people to grow together without losing themselves in each other. But here's the hard part. You have to stop romanticizing the pain. You have to stop calling it love when it's really just fear of being alone. You have to stop justifying mistreatment because you think you can't do better. You have to stop believing that the person who keeps hurting you is the best you'll ever get. That's not love. That's survival. And you weren't born to survive love, you were born to thrive in it. So how do you shift from needing someone to complete you to realizing you're already whole? Start with radical honesty. Ask yourself, where in my life am I abandoning myself for the sake of being loved? Where am I shrinking to be accepted? Where am I ignoring my own needs just to keep someone around? Then get curious. What wounds are fueling those patterns? What early experiences taught you that love had to be earned or chased or begged for? Awareness is everything. Because once you see the pattern, you can break it. And once you break it, you create space to build a relationship with yourself that is so rich, so grounded, so fulfilling that you no longer need anyone to make you feel enough. You already are. Start showing up for yourself like you want someone else to. Set boundaries, speak kindly to yourself, take care of your body, pursue your passions, surround yourself with people who see you, not just tolerate you. Walk away from anything or anyone that makes you question your worth. Do that long enough and something beautiful happens. You become the love you were waiting for. You stop craving someone to rescue you, and instead, you become your own sanctuary. You stop looking for someone to fill your emptiness, and instead, you fill your life with purpose. You stop believing the lie that you're too much or not enough, and instead, you start believing the truth, that you are already whole. And when you show up in the world that way, whole, healed, and rooted, love finds you, not because you begged for it, not because you twisted yourself into knots to earn it, but because you radiated something undeniable: self-respect, confidence, wholeness. You weren't waiting for someone to choose you. You had already chosen yourself. That's when you attract a different kind of love, the kind that sees you, the kind that honors you, the kind that recognizes your worth not because you convinced them, but because you embodied it. So if you're feeling like love hasn't found you yet, pause, breathe, turn inward. Maybe it's not about finding someone else. Maybe it's about finally finding yourself, because when you do, you'll stop chasing. You'll stop settling. You'll stop looking for completion in someone else's arms, and you'll finally realize the truth you've been running from. You were never incomplete to begin with. Heal the parts of you that keep choosing pain in the name of love. There's a difficult truth that most people never want to say out loud, but it's one of the most important truths you'll ever hear when it comes to love. You don't just attract what you want. You attract what you believe you deserve. It's a confronting thing to hear because it forces you to look inward and ask, why do I keep ending up in situations where I feel rejected, abandoned, or not enough? And if we're honest, really honest, most of the pain we experience in relationships doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from the subconscious patterns we keep repeating. It comes from the unhealed parts of us that think pain is love, that think chaos is chemistry, that think inconsistency is passion. But let me tell you something, love shouldn't feel like a wound that never closes. Love shouldn't feel like you're constantly proving your worth. Love shouldn't make you question yourself every day. That's not love. That's trauma wearing the mask of love, and you can't build a healthy relationship from a place of unhealed pain. Because when you're not healed, you don't choose from clarity. You choose from memory, you choose from wounds, you choose based on what's familiar, not what's healthy. You might say you want someone who communicates, who shows up, who loves deeply and consistently. But then when someone like that comes along, it feels boring, it feels too calm, too safe, and without realizing it, you find yourself gravitating back to the person who gives you anxiety, who pulls away, who doesn't choose you because that chaos feels more like home. Let that sink in. You're not addicted to the person. You're addicted to the feeling you associate with love. The intensity, the uncertainty, the highs and lows. It mirrors something from your past. Maybe the way love was modeled to you. Maybe the way you had to work for attention as a child. Maybe the way your emotional needs went unmet. So now you equate longing with love. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal. Because if you don't, you'll keep rewriting the same painful story with different people. You'll keep dating emotionally unavailable partners and calling it chemistry. You'll keep chasing people who don't choose you and calling it fate. You'll keep accepting disrespect and calling it fighting for love. But real love doesn't feel like a battlefield. It doesn't hurt more than it heals. It doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't silence your needs. Real love brings peace. Real love honors you. Real love allows you to feel safe enough to be seen fully without shame. So if you keep choosing pain, if you keep ending up in situations that leave you drained, anxious, confused, or depleted, don't ask, what's wrong with them? Ask, what in me still thinks this is love? That's where healing begins. And healing doesn't mean you become perfect. It doesn't mean you'll never feel pain again. It means you stop letting your wounds drive the car. It means you pause before falling into old patterns. It means you start recognizing red flags for what they are, warnings, not puzzles to be solved. It means you stop romanticizing people who make you feel small. Healing requires courage because it means letting go of the comfort of familiarity. It means walking away from people you may still love, but know are not good for you. It means sitting with your loneliness instead of running back to someone who made you feel like an option. It means choosing growth over comfort, and the most powerful part of healing, you begin to choose differently. You stop chasing people who don't choose you, not because you don't care, but because you care too much about yourself now. You stop ignoring red flags not because you're cold, but because you're finally awake. You stop mistaking drama for love because you've come to realize that peace is the new passion. Healing rewires your taste in love. It makes you crave emotional safety, not roller coasters. It makes you seek kindness, not intensity. It makes you value presence over promises. And once you experience that kind of love, real, steady, grounded love, you'll wonder why you ever romanticized anything less. But healing takes time and patience and honesty. It means forgiving yourself for the times you stayed too long, for the texts you shouldn't have sent, for the times you broke your own heart by trying to make someone love you. You were doing the best you could with what you knew then, and now you know better. Now you have the power to do better. So start small, notice your patterns, journal about them. What types of people are you drawn to? What emotions do they trigger in you? What do you feel when someone actually treats you well? Do you feel safe, or do you want to run? Your nervous system will try to convince you that pain is passion, because that's what it's used to. But healing teaches your nervous system a new language, one where calm is not boring, where respect is not a reward but a baseline, where you're not constantly anxious because you're finally choosing people who value consistency over confusion. And here's something no one tells you: healing your patterns might mean being single for a while. Because when you raise your standards not just in who you date, but in what energy you allow in your life, you may find that a lot of what once attracted you no longer does. You may say no to people you once would have clung to. You may walk away sooner, and yes, it might feel lonely. But there's a difference between being alone and being in peace. And the more you sit in that peace, the more you anchor into it, the more you start to feel what you were always worthy of: your own love, your own validation, your own sense of enoughness. And from there, you no longer choose love to fill a void. You choose it to share the fullness of who you've become. That is the shift. When you stop choosing pain, you make room for love, the kind of love that doesn't make you chase, the kind of love that doesn't make you beg, the kind of love that doesn't trigger your trauma but helps you heal from it, the kind of love that mirrors back the work you've done on yourself. But that only happens when you stop blaming love for your pain and start taking ownership of your patterns. It's not about guilt, it's about responsibility. Because if you can choose pain over and over again, you can also choose healing. You can choose growth. You can choose to break the cycle. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You don't just protect your heart, you elevate your life. You don't just avoid toxic relationships, you attract meaningful ones. You don't just walk away from the wrong people, you finally have the space to welcome the right one. Because the truth is, real love doesn't find you until you stop hiding behind your wounds, until you stop calling trauma destiny, until you stop believing that pain is a requirement for passion. When you heal, you begin to see love clearly, not as a way to feel enough, but as a way to give from your enoughness, not as a way to fix your brokenness, but as a reflection of how far you've come, not as a destination, but as a mirror, one that finally reflects back the work, the growth, the strength, and the self-respect you cultivated alone. So, if you've been in cycles of hurt, pause, not to shame yourself, but to love yourself enough to stop. Because you are worthy of a love that doesn't hurt, a love that doesn't confuse, a love that feels like home, not a hurricane. And the first step to that love, healing the part of you that keeps opening the door to pain, and calling it love. Become the person you want to be loved by. You've probably said this before or heard someone say it. I just want someone who's honest, loyal, kind, emotionally intelligent, attractive, ambitious, consistent. Someone who truly sees me, and that's a beautiful desire. You should absolutely have high standards when it comes to love. But here's the real question, the one most people never ask themselves. Are you living like the kind of person you want to attract? Because we often create detailed checklists of what we want in a partner, but we rarely reflect that same level of intention onto ourselves. We demand loyalty, yet we abandon our own boundaries. We ask for emotional maturity, yet we lash out when we're triggered. We want consistent love, yet we entertain inconsistent people. We say we want a powerful connection, but we haven't built the power in our own lives yet. Here's the hard truth: you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are ready for. And that readiness starts with becoming the person who embodies the qualities you desire in someone else. Becoming someone who doesn't just wait for love to arrive, but builds a life so full, so rich, so meaningful, that love becomes a bonus, not a rescue plan. Think about it like this: if the most amazing person walked into your life today, the kind of person you dream about, would they recognize you as their match? Would they see in you the same energy, stability, joy, growth, and authenticity that they bring? Or would they see someone still unsure of themselves, someone still stuck in old wounds, someone still hoping that love will fill the holes they haven't patched up yet? That's the mirror moment we all need. Because real love isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about becoming someone who's living in alignment with the love you want to experience. Let's break it down. What kind of person do you want to be loved by? Let's say you want someone who communicates well, who listens, who doesn't shut down when things get difficult. Then ask yourself, how do I handle conflict? Do I listen? Do I speak with love, or do I react with ego and defensiveness? Do I open up emotionally, or do I hide behind silence and withdrawal? Maybe you want someone who respects boundaries. Then ask yourself, do I respect my own boundaries, or do I constantly betray them just to keep someone close? Perhaps you want someone who has their life together, who's purpose-driven, who takes care of themselves, who inspires you. Then ask, am I showing up for my own life with that level of purpose? Am I chasing my goals? Am I investing in my growth? This isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about integrity. It's about making sure that the love you desire isn't just a fantasy, but something your life is prepared to hold. Because otherwise, here's what happens. You meet someone amazing and they reflect back to you all the work you haven't done yet. And that kind of mirror can be hard to look into. You feel insecure. You feel unworthy. You self-sabotage. You push them away because your internal world doesn't match the external blessing you just received. You want better love, build a better relationship with yourself. That means treating yourself the way you want to be treated. That means not just talking about your worth, but living like you believe it. That means refusing to beg for love, crumbs, attention, or reassurance, because you've already given yourself the full meal. And this part is so important. Stop waiting for someone to come into your life to finally become the person you know you're meant to be. Don't wait to feel loved before you become loving. Don't wait to feel desired before you take care of yourself. Don't wait for the one to show up before you start becoming the one for yourself, because your future partner isn't looking for someone waiting to be loved. They're looking for someone who's already living fully. Someone who's not stuck in fear. Someone who's doing the work. Someone who has a full heart, a clear mind, and a passionate life. So the question is not, when will I find love? The better question is, who am I becoming in the meantime? Because becoming that person isn't just about attracting love. It's about becoming someone you're proud of regardless of whether love is in the room or not. You start waking up with purpose. You set boundaries because you value your energy. You say no to things that don't serve you. You don't tolerate half-heartedness because you're showing up fully in your own life. You become magnetic not because of a filter or a clever line, but because yourself worth radiates from the inside out. Because you walk like someone who no longer waits to be chosen, but has already chosen themselves. People feel that energy, that confidence, that self-respect. That's the kind of energy that draws the right people in and repels the wrong ones. Let's take this even deeper. A lot of people say they want unconditional love. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't ask someone to love you unconditionally when you love yourself conditionally. Think about it. If your love for yourself goes up and down depending on your weight, your income, your relationship status, your productivity, your past mistakes, how can you expect someone else to love you consistently? You have to be the first one to hold yourself with grace, to love your own flaws, to accept your own mess, to forgive your own mistakes. That's not just personal growth, that's relationship prep. Because the way you treat yourself becomes the blueprint for how others treat you. And when you set the tone for what love looks like in your life, the world follows. So if you want love to find you, here's what you do. Start becoming the love you've been waiting for. Be generous with your time. Be kind with your words. Be present in your conversations. Be loyal to your values. Be committed to your growth. Be proud of how far you've come. Be compassionate toward the parts of you still healing. And above all, be deeply honest with yourself about where you're holding back, because every time you hold yourself to a higher standard, every time you choose healing over repeating, every time you love yourself through the loneliness instead of filling it with distraction, you're becoming someone unshakable. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't settle. The kind of person who doesn't chase love because they know love that requires you to abandon yourself isn't love worth having. And then, when love does show up, it's not chaos. It's not confusion. It's not manipulation dressed up as romance. It's calm, it's clear, it's consistent, it's real, and it feels that way because you're finally ready for it. Not because you found the perfect person, but because you became the person who could receive that kind of love. Who could hold it, nurture it, grow with it, without fear, without sabotage, without losing yourself in the process. So if you're single right now, use this time, use it to evolve, use it to become someone who doesn't need love, but who is ready for it. Use it to stop performing and start living fully as you. Because when you start living as the person you want to be loved by, that kind of love can't help but find you. It'll walk into your life, and for the first time you won't question if you deserve it. Because you'll already know the answer, you became it. You don't have to chase love, you don't have to beg for it, you don't have to twist yourself into knots trying to be more this or less that so someone stays. Love will find you when you find yourself. So if you're single right now, don't see it as a void, see it as your greatest opportunity. This is your time to evolve, to grow, to rediscover who you are without anyone else's opinion. To become the kind of person who walks into a room with confidence, who knows what they bring to the table, who doesn't fear rejection because they're too rooted in their worth to be shaken by it. And when love finds you, and it won't be because you chased it down. It'll be because you were finally walking in your truth. You were living as the best, most authentic version of you, and that version is magnetic. Love finds those who are no longer searching for permission to be themselves. Find yourself, and love will find you.